Now, before we commence the concepts, let's have some sort of some unconnecting dots. We will see that some of the small concepts, and then we're going to combine all these concepts all together. So here you can see we have a latitude. So what are the latitudes? Suppose we have our Earth as a sphere. You can see in this image. So from the center, we used to draw one angle on the surface. So suppose this is what the center, and this is what the angle, and this is what the 0 degree angle. Okay, this is what the 0 degree angle. And when I draw a line from the center towards the surface, and if I make a one round condition like this, so there will be a circle on Earth's surface. Now this will be called as what? 0 degree, because the angle is taken from here is 0 degree. Let's say if I take a reference from here, let's say like this, so it is what? The 10 degree. And when I make a circle around the Earth's surface, so that will be called as what? 10 degree latitude. Here you can see. So this is what the plane we have drawn, and from this plane, let's say we have this angle towards the Earth's surface. Let's say this is the 10 degree angle. Now this line will be run across the Earth's surface, and that will appear like a one circle, that will appear like a one latitude. So our Earth is actually divided in terms of two hemispheres, Northern Hemisphere and Southern Hemisphere. It is based on this plane. So this is what the 0 degree, this is what the 10, this is what 20, 30, 90. Likewise, we have a same thing. Now you will see this is what the -10. No, it is not -10. Like we used to change a plane, and this is what the Southern Hemisphere, this is what the Northern Hemisphere. It is the equator, this is the latitude which divide our Earth into two hemispheres, Northern Hemisphere and Southern Hemisphere. Here you can see again, we have a reference. This is what the plane. So here we have a plane like this. Then we have a 10 degree angle, then we have a 20 degree angle, 30 degree angle, 40 degree angle, 50 degree angle, and so on. And all of these angles you can see, this is what the 10 degree angle which has taken from the surface, from center to the surface. So this is how the latitudes are actually drawn. So if you see our Earth as a sphere, so we have a 90 latitude each, means 90 latitude is in Northern Hemisphere, 90 latitudes will be in Southern Hemisphere. So these latitudes are basically the imaginary horizontal lines. They are what? The imaginary horizontal lines that circle the Earth while running east to west. They are running east to west. They measures the angular distance of any place north or south of the equator. I told you, suppose if you are here, so this is what the angular distance, that what is the distance from the angle, the person who is standing either on P position, or let's say on this R position. So this is what the angular distance towards the Earth's surface, and it is expressed in terms of degrees from north to south. So these are the latitudes basically, which are the horizontal lines drawn over Earth's surface. It is actually the distance from the center of Earth. You might have seen the Google map. So on the Google map you will see that the coordinates are there. So the one part of the coordinate will be there. Suppose if you are in India, so it will show like this, that you are somewhere on the 35 degree north if you are near to Delhi. 35 degree north, that will be the latitude which is going to appear. It means what? That the position at which Delhi is located from the center of Earth, it is making a 35 degree angle while considering the plane. This is what the angular distance. Suppose if you are in, let's say Kerala for example, suppose if you are in Chennai for example, so Chennai, and from the Chennai there will be an angle. So it is somewhere, let's say 15 degrees. So that is what the angular distance or the angle which is actually making with respect to the location of Chennai from the center of Earth. That's how the latitudes are there. So from the center towards the surface, when we have a circle kind of circumference around the Earth's surface, so that will be called as what? Latitude. All of these latitudes are the horizontal lines. Going ahead, and latitudes are parallel circle around the Earth. Here you can see Suppose we have a 0 degree angle from the earth center, and when the 0 degree angle is actually, this line is drawn towards the surface, and when it is running across the surface, so we have this pattern. We have this equator, which we are calling it as a 0 degree latitude. So similarly, suppose you have a one more angle, so you will have a this particular circle, you may have a this particular circle here, you may have a this particular circle here. So it is the latitude basically, because there is a sphere shape, so there will be a latitude running across the sphere surface. So it's like a circle, it's not like a line. For study purposes we used to take a reference of line, but technically it is what, a circle. So all of these latitudes are what, parallel to each other, means they are not joining together, never they will going to move, they will run parallel to each other. And when we talk about the parallels especially, so they are basically the parallel circles around the earth surface. They are equally placed, they are what, equally placed, and they are also placed, or their expression is being referred in terms of degrees from equator. And I told you that the length is not equal. Equator is actually the great circle, and pole, the part or latitude which is on the pole, that is the shortest one. So biggest at the equator and smallest at the pole. So the circumference of the latitude which is there on the equator, it is somewhere 40,000 kilometer, and the circumference which is there on the pole of that particular latitude, the circle which is running around the 90 degree latitude, is somewhere 1400 kilometers. So there is a slight variation. So what we can say, latitudes are parallel, but their circumference, their length is not equal. They are unequal in terms of their length. However, they run parallels. They run what? Parallel. So this is what the idea about the latitude. Moving ahead. Similarly, when you have a 0 degree, so you will refer that as a equator, 0 degree latitude. If you have a 90 degree, means just superimposed on plane, so you'll have a north pole on 90 degree, south pole on 90 degree south. Distance between each degree of latitude is almost 111 kilometer. Means suppose this is what the 0 degree and this is what the 1 degree. So the distance between 0 to 1 degree will be always 111 kilometers. Okay. Similarly, if suppose we have a 2 degree, so again the distance, kilometer wise distance between the 1 degree or 2 degree will be 111 kilometers. Alright. So the distance between two successive latitudes, 1 degree, 2 degree, 3 degree, 4 degree, and so on, that distance will be always 111 kilometers. So the length, if you see, equator's length is actually decreasing while moving poleward. The length is maximum on the equator, and as you move towards the polar region, the distance will be what? Less. The circumference will be what? Less. So on equator we have a great circle, and on pole we have a shortest circle. So we have a one pattern. What is the pattern? That there will be a decline in the length when it comes to a movement from equator towards the pole. Here if you see, so this 0 degree is being known as what? Equator. Then we have a one more important latitude, which is basically 23.5 north as well as south. So these two latitudes are being known as what? Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn respectively. They are circle actually. See, for the study purposes, because at a given time we have a one phase. Here you can see on this board as well, there is a one phase which is appearing. So the another phase is, let's say, on the background, like it is behind this one. So it is a kind of circle, but for our study purposes we will take a reference of straight line. Alright. Then we have a one more important latitude, that is 66.5 north, 66.5 south. This is 66.5 north, 66.5 south. So they are being known as Arctic Circle and Antarctic Circle respectively. The area or the latitude which is towards the Antarctic being known as Antarctic Circle, and that is being known as Arctic Circle. Then we have a poles, 90 degree north pole, 90 degree south pole, and the latitude which are above the 0 degree being known as Northern Hemisphere latitudes, or the latitude which are below the 0 degree, they are being known as Southern Hemisphere. So this is what a general idea about the horizontal lines on our Earth's surface, perhaps circles around the Earth's surface. Now here you can see that this is the shape of our Earth. However, I told you that we will always take a reference of the perfect sphere. However, our Earth is geoid in terms of its shape. So this is what the appearance which should look like, but there is a tilt. There is a tilt, and here suppose this is what the axis of rotation. This is supposed to be axis of rotation, but it's because of the tilt. It's because of the tilt. What we can say that here this is supposed to be the line of rotation. Okay, similar, but actually we have a rotational axis of our Earth in this way. There is a angle which is from the real axis of our Earth, from the axis of our Earth, let's say, and that is 23.5. That's why there is a Tropic of Cancer, Tropic of Capricorn, 23.5 north, 23.5 south. So it's because of this tilt. So it is the tilt basically because of which here you can see this equator should be like this. This equator should have been like this, but the real equator is like this. It's because of the shift. It's because of the, we can say, tilt. So because of the tilt, the orientation of landmass with respect to the latitude used to change. Here you can see this is what the latitude, this is what the landmass, but here again the orientation is getting changed, and it is because of this orientation we have so many other seasonal contexts. We have so many different variability in terms of insolation on our Earth's surface. It is because of the tilt. Perhaps the life is actually existing on our Earth's surface. If there is no tilt throughout the year, all the places on our Earth's surface might have a similar weather conditions. It is because of the tilt we have a variable weather conditions. We have a monsoon. Alright, so here we have a tilt in this way. Moving ahead, if you take a reference of these latitudes, and if you join the one concept of latitude and another concept of tilt, then you have a one pattern. What pattern? You will going to see a one more concept, that is the insolation. Now the meaning of insolation is incoming solar radiation, means the sunlight which is coming. So incoming solar radiation, that is what the insolation. I hope you have a clarity about the latitudes, and now I hope you have a clarity about the tilt. I told you geography is a very sequential. When you have a clarity on one topic, then you will move towards the next topic or concept, then all those respective two topics will be used in the third topic, similarly on the fourth topic, and so on. So it's a proper sequence. It's like a ladder, and if you want to move on the particular stairs, you have to step up each of them. So it's because of the tilt, the different latitudes receives different angle of insolation. Different angle of insolation is there, and it's because of the different angle of insolation. See, suppose we have a one surface, and suppose this is what the sunlight. So you will see here what is happening, that this is what the sunlight which is spread in this way. Now it will going to intense, it will going to make surface warm. This is what our Earth's surface. This is what the sunlight, or you can say insolation. So when the sunlight is striking on the surface, if the angle is greater, so there will be a more warming. Why? Because the energy is distributed in a very less area. That's why there will be a warming. Similarly, if there is a slanted angle, we have a same reference, okay? We have a same reference, but the angle is slanted, so now there is a more area with the energy to spread out. So if the energy will be spread out in a more area, temperature will be less. So contrastingly, if we have a high angle, or let's say overhead angle, or let's say 90-degree angle, or let's say more vertical angle, so that will lead to the warming. Why? Because it will going to warm the surface. If the angle is slanted, so it will going to have a less warming on our Earth's surface. It is because the energy is distributed over a large area. That will not going to result it into the heating up as compared to the heating which is taking place in this particular angle. So here you can see a contextual reference. This is what our Earth surface, and this equator is receiving 90-degree insolation at a given time. Similarly, you can see the respective latitudes, and these respective latitudes are receiving the different angle of insolation. It is because of this. Here you can see the curvature of our Earth. It's because of the curvature of our Earth and latitude and tilt that some of the latitudes will going to receive this kind of insolation, some of the latitudes will going to receive this kind of insolation. It is not because of the sun, it is because of the curvature, it is because of the shape, it is because of the irregularity of our Earth's surface. Okay, so due to varied insolation, here you can see the insolation is varied. Be with me, you'll have a more clarity, because I told you that in geography we have so many small concepts. When all of these concepts joined all together, then you'll have a more clarity. So be with me, you'll have a more clarity about these aspects in some upcoming slides. So due to varied insolation, seasons are observed. It's because of these varied insolation we have a seasons. This is what the contextual reference of summer you can say. This is what the contextual reference of winter you can say. And here you can say we have another angle of insolation with respect to the different latitudes. It is what another position of our Earth with respect to the latitude, with respect to the tilt. It is not the sun who is changing its light or its intensity. It's the surface of Earth, the tilt of our Earth. It's the latitude which is actually receiving. Let's talk about season specifically. So as I told you, our Earth revolve around sun in an elliptical orbit. Now I hope you have a clarity on this part. So there is an elliptical orbit in which the Earth is revolving. Now during the revolution, Earth attained 4 critical positions. There are 4 critical positions while revolving around the sun in the elliptical orbit, apart from perihelion and aphelion. Okay, they are the position with respect to the distance. Okay, but they are the positions which we are referring here as a critical position. 4 critical positions are there. Now what are the references of these 4 critical positions? The references of these 4 critical positions is what? The angle of insolation with respect to the latitude. At what latitude, what is the angle of insolation? So the angle of insolation with respect to the latitude is resulted into these 4 critical positions. How? See, let's take an example that at a given point of time, sun is overhead, sun is having a 90-degree insolation on Tropic of Cancer, and this position you will see on 21st of June. This position you will see on 21st of June, and this is being known as what? Summer solstice. During the summer solstice, there will be a summer in Northern Hemisphere and there will be a winter in Southern Hemisphere. Similarly, when the sun is overhead, or let's say 90-degree on Tropic of Capricorn, that day falls on 22nd of December, that is being termed as winter solstice. In the case of winter solstice, there will be a summer in Southern Hemisphere, but there will be a winter in Northern Hemisphere. Now these critical positions, among these 4 critical positions, we just talk about the 2 critical positions. When the sun is overhead on Cancer, 23.5 north, I hope you remember, and 23.5 south, Tropic of Capricorn. So at a given point of time, sun is making a 90-degree angle with the Tropic of Cancer. That resulted into the summer in Northern Hemisphere, and there is a reversal in opposite, or let's say southern hemisphere. So these two hemispheres are having a opposite characteristics. Similarly, if you see on the 22nd of December, there will be a 90-degree insolation on Tropic of Capricorn, 23.5 south, that will result into summer in southern hemisphere and winter in northern hemisphere. So two of these hemispheres are actually contrastingly different from each. So we just talk about these two critical things. Moving ahead.